Hello, my name is Eric McAleer with World Strides. Thank you for joining me today in this journey through women's soccer. World Strides is really happy to have partnered with WAGS to interview 5 amazing female soccer players and coaches who can share their own experiences from around the globe. Let me introduce my co-host, Sky Eddy. Sky is a former professional player, active coach, and founder of soccerparenting.com. Our special guest today is Jené Baclawski from South Texas Youth Soccer and St. Kitts and Nevis women's soccer team. Jene, thank you for joining us. I'm delighted to have you. How are you today?
I'm doing great. Hi, Sky. Hi, Eric. Thank you for having me.
You bet. Jene, let me give you a quick compliment in your backdrop. We love it. We just wanted to share that just to get us. We're going off script there, but we love your backdrop.
Thank you. Yeah, this is my home workout gym, my treadmill, and you can see the race bibs and the medals. And I don't know if you can read it, but above there it says, there will come a day when you can no longer do this, but today is not the day. So it's my motivational quote that's up there that I see when I don't feel like running.
There you go.
So yeah, but thank you. It's great to see you guys.
Yeah, we all need a little bit of motivation. I'm motivated.
Yeah. Okay.
So let's dive into St. Kitts and Nevis. Such an exciting opportunity for you. How do you think that Olympic qualifying went for your team? And also, like, bigger picture, what did it mean to the islands?
Oh yeah, I mean, obviously we didn't qualify for the Olympics, which have been postponed. So I would be remiss to say if we weren't disappointed at the outcome of that. But yeah, this was the first time that any national team at St. Kitts and Nevis had progressed to this level of competition in an international tournament, especially the women's team, the farthest the women's team had ever gone. And so having the opportunity to come in last fall and win the Caribbean qualifier to be able to advance to the final round of the CONCACAF qualifications, which was held for those of you who may not know, in January, and we were in Group B, which is in McAllen, Texas. We got drawn into a very difficult group against Jamaica, Mexico, and Canada. And from a scoreline standpoint, no, I mean, it didn't go well. We didn't win. We weren't able to have even really any much in terms of offense going for our team, but in terms of the lessons and the experience that the players and the federation and myself learned off of the field and on the field, it's only sets up St. Kitts and Nevis for growth in the future. And to be that quickly exposed to something at that level in my young experience working on an international level was something that I mean, it could have taken years to be able to learn the lessons that we did so quickly. It was kind of like ripping a Band-Aid off. But in terms of the federation, I think it's both disappointment that we didn't do better than we had hoped at the final stage in January, but also I think a hunger to want to get back to that level. So it's a great feeling, mixed feelings for sure that we have and the players have as well.
And I think, Jene, just to lead on from there, I'm sure you having jumped straight into the deep end with the national program. How would you say that the program has progressed over the last year, just from the time that you've gotten on board?
Yeah, definitely. I said this before, it's a complete credit to the Federation at St. Kitts and Nevis. They approached me over a year and a half ago about interviewing to come in. And originally, and still to be honest, my main purpose is to help grow the women's and girls game across the country. For them to look to bring in somebody from abroad, it's certainly forward thinking for them. I've said on many occasions, I want to leave St. Kitts and Nevis's women's teams and girls programs better than they were when I came. I firmly think that there should be a coach from their country that's the coach filling the shoes that I am. So trying to identify potential candidates who can go through that pathway to provide structure, to provide strategic planning. Every time I meet with the players, every time I meet with the technical staff or the federation, the dial moves forward a little bit, which is great. Having the opportunity to go to Olympic qualifiers shifted my priorities a bit to working solely with the senior women's team. And I have looking forward to, and have been spending a lot of time thinking about, okay, what are the big picture items that need to improve the game at all levels on the country? And that's really, I think, my strength as being a technical director here in South Texas, bringing those kind of skill sets to them so we can improve the big picture and not just be kind of like a one-time story, really.
Dive into those a little bit for us. Like, what are the key priorities of the big picture? Like, what do you need to do to drive the game forward?
Yeah, it's nice. It's a credit to FIFA for expanding the funding for the women's game, and St. Kitts and Nevis is certainly using that funding in an appropriate way, which I appreciate. They're very concerned with making sure that the playing field is equitable for girls and boys, but it's a very different cultural environment than we have here in the United States. Girls soccer is not the primary sport of choice, so there's some combating of what access looks like, and for girls and their families choosing the game. But really, from our perspective, it's looking at different pillars. So part of it is growing the grassroots programs there at all levels. The second part is improving the league and the structure for adult women to participate in the game. Improving education for coaches is a tenet to that, getting more women to go through coaching education platforms and see it as a possibility. And the fifth thing, I really think of like organizational governance, little things like calendar planning, budgets, those kind of strategic operations that need to happen for funding, for partnerships, for scholarships, for all of those things to help grow the program. Those 5 areas, they won't be tackled all at once, but both short-term objectives and long-term objectives to help implement improvement in all those areas. And every time I say that, it makes it sound like they are not doing things well, but they are already doing things great. I was extremely fortunate to be invited to step in at the moment I did, and to take advantage of the work that Jeffrey Hazel, who's the current technical director, have put in, because they really teed it up for me to be able to take it to another place. So it's not a situation where they don't have things, or they don't have resources, or they don't have the right perspective. Like, they very much do. It's just assisting them in tweaking it and making it long-term and sustainable.
What does it look like to be a grassroots player? So you're saying that's one of your pillars. Yeah. So what does it look like for truly like a 7 to 11-year-old young girl growing up?
Yeah, they have a really great grassroots festival program. It's very well supported. Many of the women that I've met that work in coaching or in the administration at the youth level came or work primarily in the grassroots program. One of the great things that helped me was I got connected to them through CONCACAF, and CONCACAF has done some tremendous initiatives in the grassroots coaching and improving their coaching education, much in line with what US has done with really putting playing forward. So they have had a really great reaction from parents and from young girls into the grassroots programs at the young levels. So, it's fun. I had an opportunity to speak to like a grassroots group of girls when I was there in January, when we were there for camp before qualifications. And it's weird because it's almost like any other place. They roll up, they look just like grassroots players just after school. They've got their equipment and just set up little fields, and they're just ready to play, and want to play, and are also talented. So it's just growing that and keeping them in that pathway so they can progress, hopefully, to more elite levels as they go forward and continue enjoying the game.
Yeah, but I saw that you had cool. The pro team or the pro league. There were just a handful of teams on there. It looked like the U15s were even one of the teams that was playing in the league. So there's obviously not a lot of opportunity, once these players are getting a little bit older. Is that, I assume, when you're talking about the growing the pro league or whatever, that's kind of
the sustainability of it. I think there's been other coaches that have come in from other countries to work with teams in the Caribbean. And I should back up. I was listening to Jill Ellis speak the other day, and she said something that I completely agree with, which is, if a country doesn't have a sustainable and advanced women's league, the likelihood that their national team will progress in competition is slim, right? Mm-hmm. St. Kitts and Nevis doesn't have a premier women's professional league. They don't. Really, no country in the Caribbean does. The US and other programs in Europe and Australia, of course, do. So there's a tension there between, on one end, trying to improve the current league structure, and also finding places immediately for your best players to play. Mm-hmm. St. Kitts and Nevis is a very small country. The population is less than my hometown of Austin, where I live. I mean, it's less than 50,000 people that live on the islands. The majority of people who claim St. Kitts and Nevis citizenship live actually abroad. There's very big populations in the United States and Canada, and in Europe. So that when you look at the makeup of the national teams, whether it's the senior team, the 20s, the 17s, the 15s, it's almost 50-50, to some cases, maybe 60-40% split, which brings in some really interesting dynamics of bringing people who didn't grow up there, but who are really bringing a different playing perspective and expectation with them. And then also at the same time, bringing the viewpoint of the people who live on the island and making sure it's all together and making sure it's cohesive and going in the same direction. So that, I think that's been one of the biggest challenges for me that I didn't anticipate coming in, but also like kind of a cool challenge. Yeah, you know what I mean?
And
like,
that kind of probably makes you think about your culture even more. You know,
yeah,
when you're bringing players in from, you know, who have not grown up there but have qualification to play for the country, and you get players who, you know, and trying to merge that and blend that so culturally it stays in the same place.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, listen, like I'm like the white lady from America, right? And I come in very different cultural expectations and baggage that I bring in, and it does not serve me to come in with just like, hey, here's my way, this is the way we're doing it. Your ways are archaic and that's not gonna work. It's the opposite for me. I have benefited from having players who are also US born and live here, who share maybe a little bit similarity to me. So it hasn't been quite hard, and I use them as advocates. And we've got, I'll tell you, like there are 4 like senior leaders on the team that I'd love to mention if that's okay. Phoenicia Brown, she lives in the New Jersey area. Kira Dickinson, who lives in Toronto. Brittany Lawrence, she lives in Canada as well. And then Chloe Utenberg, who is Canadian. They have been like a lifeline to me and helping me communicate with the team and even with the federation. I'm like, hey, what is going on? Okay, what do I need to do? And they'll tell me, honestly, sometimes good, sometimes not good. Like, you know, like, and Eric, if it was the other way, where I was the only person coming in from the outside, it would be much harder to navigate and to build those connections and to just try to make sure we're on the same page. So
culturally, Jene, do you feel that their standards that they bring help you set the standards for the team?
Yeah, I think my naivety was that our standards would be really different, but they're not. Our goals are the same. It's the methods by which we try to reach them that might be different. And once we're able to agree on combined expectations, things move forward quickly. So like, I'll give you an example. Setting like schedules, right? So I had like, when we go to our matches, we go to our competitions, we've got a pretty extensive schedule for the staff, for the players, for the medical staff. And it's broken down by minute, by room, by who's attending, by what the objectives are. Like it's OCD, like from my perspective. It is something that could really stress them out if needed. You know, like it does, but because it's a lot. I mean, it's a lot of expectations. It's a lot of work. And the first reaction that I had was, that's way too much. And then the second time, and the third day is like, hey, why did we not have that meeting? Like, we really need to be on the same page. Like, what can we do? Can we schedule it again? Or can we have another one? Like, so after we all got to kind of know each other, it was like, yeah, okay, these kind of things come together. And there's times where I would send a note and say, hey, we're not going to have this today. And everybody would be so excited. Like, and the next time we would make sure it's productive, right? So that's just a small, like, organizational example of off the field, behind the scenes things that that I deal with, you know, because, you know, when you come in and work with a team, you really don't have time off. It's such a small window, and you want to take advantage of every second you have to be able to be as productive as you can. But recognizing that there's just times sometimes where you got to make sure and stop and check, and we all want to do it.
When you were named the coach here, and what is your title? Is it just the coach, or is it also like a technical director? Or
no, it's just the senior women. Head coach of the senior women's team.
Okay,
yeah.
But it does sound like you have some play in the grassroots development, which is
definitely
great.
Yeah.
Did you? I'm just curious, because there's other coaches that have kind of followed your path. You mentioned them earlier, like, you know, other coaches that have gone into the islands and had these national team experiences. Did you reach out to any of them? Did you try to seek some guidance, like best practices, what worked?
Yeah, I did. I did. I mean, I reached out to a lot of the people that I knew in CONCACAF. They were my primary support system, just trying to, make connections. Obviously, like Heather and Leslie working with CONCACAF as coach educators has been helpful. And then having an opportunity to just be friends with and colleagues with Lisa Cole, who I have for years looked up to. And then all of a sudden you're thrown into a situation where you're coaching against her is like surreal, So I think from my perspective, we're all in this together to help improve the level of play across CONCACAF and improving the game in general in the Caribbean. I think there's more that we could do. I think part of it is trying to figure out how to survive in the short term so we can be sustainable in the long term. But it's been absolutely critical to reach out to people who for good and bad, did good things or had challenges before me that I could learn from.
Yeah.
So that's been very helpful, for sure.
How instrumental has FIFA's support been to the federation taking notice of the women? Like, was that the game changer? Was that like what triggered them to focus a little bit more? Yeah,
they, the men's national team had brought in an Argentinian head coach a year and a half ago, and it went well. And their general secretary and their governance council wanted to match that criteria for the women's team. Good. And unfortunately, there's not any women currently, like I mentioned, in St. Kitts and Nevis that have the license requirements that would be needed by CONCACAF. So that's really, I think, a credit to them to try to have some equity between the two programs.
Good.
It's really great.
I know cricket's a big sport there. So one, I guess I have two questions, is like, how has the football been doing in competition with the cricket, but are there female coaches there so there's that structure in place, or that culturally that's acceptable?
Yeah, I had an opportunity to go and meet with the Olympic committee at, track and field is very popular there. Track and field, cricket, and then netball for girls.
I don't understand netball. I've never understood this, but whatever.
I'm not familiar with netball, but like netball is the sport of choice for this after school programming.
Yeah.
Cricket is the sport of choice for, I guess, the more economically advantaged, but soccer is gaining ground, right? So I had this really great opportunity to meet with this woman who represents St. Kitts and Nevis on the Olympic Federation as a committee member. And she's a huge netball advocate. And so it was kind of like trying to be like, hi, I have no idea what netball is, right? And what I learned from her is that there's widespread support for women in athletics in St. Kitts and Nevis, even in soccer. It's just that soccer is the new sport that's growing and fighting maybe cultural expectations of what's appropriate for femininity. Netball is a non-contact sport. The cricket stadium is next to the national stadium where the soccer house is for the national team. It's up on this beautiful hill and you can see the ocean on both sides. And the cricket facility is next door. But cricket is a professional sport. So the cricket facility is funded by a corporation. So it's got great lights and great seating, and they play in the Caribbean League. They play Barbados, and and they're all so tall and good looking. It's shocking. The soccer stadium is not quite as nice, but it's nice. It's not, it's like a nice small college stadium here. But I will say the thing that I think cricket has going for it is apparently the party and the festival atmosphere, because it goes on for days. So if we could perhaps get that kind of marketing behind women's football in St. Kitts, we might be on to something there, but what's interesting about that is the senior women's team has never played at home in front of a crowd. Wow. We tried really hard in January to coordinate getting another country to come in and play in a preseason scrimmage. So finding more opportunities for home games where we can build momentum from the home audience and give back to the fans that have been supporting the team when we've traveled abroad is an absolute critical component of what we want to do in the next year to just build momentum. And hopefully we'll be able to get there and do that safely. So.
And let me just jump in and say, netball is a fun sport. So growing up in United Kingdom, that was a PE sport for us. Yeah. So I have certainly played some netball in my time. I played netball, field hockey. That was all part of growing up in the UK. And netball is huge. It's huge in the United Kingdom. But just leading on from there, Jene, is
Yeah.
I love hearing the comparison of your journey with Lisa Cole and, you know, the challenges and the experiences that you've got of building up the infrastructure. And I think my question is probably, what's the biggest learning experience for you and your team as part of the Olympic qualification?
As part of the Olympic qualification process?
Yes, the whole process, the journey. And I'm sure you look back now in hindsight and reflection, and, you know, you're doing some, you know, just kind of looking at where you've gone there. I think just, you know, what's been the biggest experiences from that journey?
Oh, I mean, there's been so many positive experiences. I would also lie if there haven't been experiences where I wake up and I'm like, wait, what? Like, what's going on? Like, I've had those too, you know. They're fortunately fewer, and they get fewer as we go forward. You know, but I would say like the biggest lesson, I can only go back to this, Eric. When I first met the team, we came in about a week and a half early to Trinidad. We were in Port of Spain, and I did not have the opportunity to pick the team that would be coming, the staff. And I was really clear that I wanted to keep a lot of the staff that had been with the team working with me, because that's important to me to help mentor and grow those relationships with those coaches. But we got there, they picked me up. I'd never met anybody in person. I'd only talked to them on the phone. So there was a little bit of me that was like, is this going to be like a kidnapping thing? Like, I'm not sure. Right. So I landed and they picked me up. Okay, great. It was great. And the next day we had training. Well, we go out to the field, and first of all, the field was a city park that hadn't been mowed. So that was fun. And also there were no goals, so that was fun. So we get down there, and there's no balls, there's no pennies, there's no cones. And it is not a situation where nobody can afford balls, pennies, and cones. It is a situation where nobody remembered to do that and bring them. Yeah. So we didn't have any equipment. And here's like my first day, first time working with the team, first time they've worked with me. So there's nerves around everywhere, and totally dropped the ball in bringing things, right? And here I am like, listen, like I have coached at all sorts of levels. I have coached all sorts of places. I know to be self-reliant and bring my stuff. You know what I mean? Yeah. I shouldn't have assumed that these things would happen, but I did, and that was a major mistake. And it was a really good lesson for me going, okay, like I dropped the ball. I didn't clarify this is what's needed, who's responsible for bring it myself, or have a conversation. Like, and that has been a theme for me. I think a lot of coaches that have worked with other countries are quick to point the finger and say like they weren't prepared, they didn't plan. That is not the case. Like every time something has a gap, I point at me. Like, was I clear? If I wasn't clear, okay, what can I do next time to make sure that everybody understands their roles and responsibilities, and whether it's the staff, whether it's myself, whether it's the players. That was a major lesson for me. And Eric, it's something that I take into my professional life outside of working with St. Kitts, and it has truly impacted the way that I try to lead my coaches, my instructors, my teams here. So big lesson.
Yeah.
Has that been one of the lessons that the team has learned as well? Like just in terms of taking responsibility for their fitness and their preparedness and their mentality for training and competing?
Yeah. I mean, we want to do more for them. You know, one of the challenges is we don't have the resources that the top 10 teams do in CONCACAF. You know, I'll give you an example. Like we try to be self-reliant as we possibly can, to communicate as well as we can, and to provide a high level of service for the players. But when we go to like our pre-game training day, and we're at the HEB complex in Edinburgh, Texas, and basically there's 4 fields that are lined up, and there's like that black wind stuff on the fences, so you can't see, right? You know, but you can kind of see because there's like gaps, you know what I mean? So like it's us, it's Mexico, it's Canada, and then like Jamaica, I think was like early in the day. So it's the three countries. And here we are, and our players carried the equipment, they carried their like foam rollers, they carried their balls, they carried their bag. Great. Okay. Mexico has a staff of like 8 people rolling their stuff in. Canada has drones filming their practice that they're breaking down in real time with 5 cameras. And we have a cell phone. Like, you know, like it's so, you know, you laugh about it. It's like, this was one of those things that was eye-opening, because I look at the technical director and the people that are there from the federation, and they're looking going, yeah, we don't have that.
Yeah.
What can we do to put those things on our radar so that the next time we can make the disparity in resources a little smaller, knowing we don't have Coca-Cola as a major sponsor. We don't have Visa as a sponsor. So we're not going to get all of those things. We're not going to have 15 staff members there just assigned for pregame fitness, you know? But, you know, and that was really difficult because the players see that and they just go, wow, like, look at that. And that could be it could be stressful, you know, but to try to bring it in and go, we can control, we can't control. Yep. And these are things that we're going to make as an initiative going forward so that we can make that a less gap, you know, but
as a coach, probably, Jene, but as a coach from that perspective, sometimes there's nothing better than being the underdog. Yeah. You know, that you've got that you can use that's your part of your locker room makeup and that's part of your journey. And, you know, look at what they've got and you know, you look at that as a program and your journey, and that's just part of kind of where you're going.
Yeah, definitely. You know, it's funny because I did not want to be drawn into the Group A. I did not want to be drawn into the group with the U.S. because working for the Federation as a coach educator and being a big fan of the U.S. women's team, I was like, oh, this is going to be bad, right? Yeah. And then as the bucket started to play out, I was like, oh, I really would rather be in the one with the U.S. But we got the harder bracket. Yeah. And the thing that I didn't think about, Eric, was almost half the team is from Canada. And our first game out of the gate is against Canada. And it's the game when Christine Sinclair is teed up to win the record, right? So pretty good chance she's going to get this ESPN moment against us, which she did, which was a great minor note in Wikipedia history for St. Kitts and Nevis. Yeah. But when you talk about that, like, you're right, like being an underdog, you know, everybody was nice to us. Everybody wanted to offer their help. Everybody was patient. The FIFA officials, the CONCACAF officials, they were like, okay, well, we're going to, you know, and all those things are experiences that we take that will help us be better the next time. That's it. You know, so it's cool. Yeah.
I love it. You've obviously been often the only woman in the room as a coach, as a player, as a coach educator. Has this experience being an American, being a female with the Federation there, has that felt any different?
Yes, it does. Yeah, it does. But I try really hard not to be the only female. And I try, like I said, try to empower the women around me to step up and to become leaders themselves, right? So that is something that's really clear to me. I'm really fortunate that, you know, working with St. Kitts is not my primary job. I'm the technical director for South Texas Youth Soccer, but my boss, my executive director, my board is very supportive of things that are passionate to me. And what's passionate to me is improving the game for women and girls globally. And to do this was so clear that it aligned with that. So I'm fortunate that they allowed me to take time away from my job to do it. But the hardest thing for me, being a woman, being a white woman, a foreign woman in these settings, was, I think, probably the language difference. They speak English, but they speak much faster than me and much quieter. And so I was constantly trying to hear and listen to what the conversations were. And it brought me back to those days, Sky, where you're in a room with all men and they're speaking almost another language. And unless you just actively insert yourself and speak, there's a chance that you could just not be heard entirely, right? Yeah. So trying to balance that between not being conventionally rude, but also really genuinely caring and wanting to know was quite a challenge for me. And luckily, you know, from my perspective, everybody was patient with me and kind. But that's a challenge. And I just hope, like I said, that in a few years' time, this is not a lifelong position for me. And I love coaching on the international level. I hope that continues, but I really hope that somebody that sees me steps up and says, that's what I want to do. That's my goal, for sure.
I think just to digress from there, Jene, is, you know, you look at your journey in the coach education world in the US, and you're certainly one of the top coach educators in the US. Do you have any plans to implement any of the coach education work into what you're doing at St. Kitts and Nevis?
Yes and no. I want to be supportive of what CONCACAF is doing. And, you know, to be honest, since the pandemic hit, things are on a pause, right? Yeah. So that's quite a challenge. Katrina LeBlanc has been doing great things for women, particularly for women's coaching education in CONCACAF. So we have big picture programming that we'd like to do. One of the reasons that I was put in touch with St. Kitts was because of my relationship with Neil Ellis. And Neil Ellis is one of the foremost coach educators, both in the country, but also with CONCACAF. And he's been working with CONCACAF to rewrite their coaching license like curriculum. I have had the insight to know what that looks like and what's coming down. And all I want to do with St. Kitts is just be supportive of it. It's not my position to rewrite or change because it's so good, you know. So just finding the ways to get more women in the coaching education courses and schedule clinics that are exclusive is really where I see my role, specifically with St. Kitts.
And that's probably been a great help for you because working side by side with Neil in South Texas also.
Yeah, he was great. He's one of my best friends, and I would be remiss to not thank him for that. Yeah. So, and he's one of those guys, Eric, like yourself, who is always looking around going, why aren't there any women here?
Yeah.
And what am I going to do about it?
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
So definitely.
That's
great.
Yeah, he was an instructor for my one of my courses, and I really enjoyed connecting with him. And I did feel that way. Like, you know, he was very aware and supportive of everything. Great guy.
Absolutely.
So I guess, you know, as we're sort of diving into coach education and your role there, let's dive in a little bit to U.S. soccer and coach education and the work that we're doing there. I'm curious sort of about play, practice, play. It's our framework for, you know, just the structures of our training. How have you seen that play out in the last couple of years as it's been implemented? Just some of the results that we're seeing as these courses are you know, being taught more and more.
Yeah. And I think you see this in your role as a coach educator too. You know, I was really fortunate that Frank Deshan asked me to be on the Grassroots working group. Oh gosh, back in 2017. So this is before the U.S. men lost to Trinidad and we didn't qualify, which was a huge misconception that play, practice, play and the Grassroots model came out of that like moment. It didn't. It came out of a lot of work prior to that. Yeah. And, you know, we fought a lot of those early battles about what is this play, practice, play thing, and where do we do technical skills, and what does that look like, and all these things. And what we knew at the time was that this was not unique to the United States, but that this was like evidence-based best practice around the globe that we were not implementing with soccer, right? And from implementing play, practice, play, and having been involved with the Grassroots courses here at the national level and here in Texas, it's very infrequent now that I get any feedback that's negative about play, practice, play. What I tend to get are a litany of emails of people that are using it and players are loving it. And they want to show examples of, I'm sure you see this, like I got to practice and the kids were already there because they were ready for the small sided games. Whereas before they were coming in late, right? Like, so this, I mean, I think the whole change of tide of making the game fun for kids is exactly what play, practice, play is about. And I love telling people that like there's been times at St. Kitts where we have done a play, practice, play practice, like with a senior women's national team. Now we're not doing it like the day before the game, but we do play, practice, play too, because it's a great methodology and it's not exclusive to Grassroots kids. You know what I mean? You can implement it anywhere, and I'm very happy with the reception that it's received.
That's great. I love it. Yeah, there was such pushback originally, and now people are saying. So for those that are open to it and just still don't quite understand it, can you just do a quick little synopsis of why play, practice, play is not okay? Just kick the ball out and let them play.
Yeah, I mean, it comes out of the best practices of teaching games for understanding, which is a larger methodological model that applies outside of soccer. But it's basically that players learn the game best by playing the game. It's the opposite of what I think probably my generation grew up on, which was the assumption that we teach people the skills and then we pop them into a game so they can play the game. Instead, it's letting players solve the problems and figure out how they can use and manipulate their body and the ball in a pressure situation. So for play, practice, play, it's about modifying the game, making it at the beginning small, teaching based on an objective. So you still have the teaching that we would call like coaching in our country. And then at the end, applying it to a larger game. So, you know, I had the opportunity to have to work my PhD in secondary physical education. And one of the things that we would assess physical education teachers about was not making the assumption that it's just rolling the ball out and then walking away, But it's actually rolling the ball out and observing and being actively engaged as a coach in a completely different way that lets them take ownership in the game. And that's really what play, practice, play is about. And it just makes sense to me because it's a teaching methodology. It's a playing methodology, and we don't teach and play the same way we did in 1950s style schools in classrooms. That's progressed. So why shouldn't coaching our sport progress? So I like it a lot, if you can't tell. So yeah. Did that answer your question, Eric? I don't know. Maybe
it certainly did. It certainly did. And I think, just our second last question here is, have your experiences in St. Kitts and Nevis changed your perspective about the game here in the US?
Yeah.
Has that allowed you to step outside and step back in and kind of look at it in a different way?
And I think you've heard other coaches say this too, but you can't leave that experience without a feeling of being grateful for what the game is here. Yeah. Some of the things that people maybe complain about or they see as obstacles, when you have any larger perspective, you realize that those things are important in that moment, but not important in the big picture. And we are so fortunate. And, one of the things that I'm dealing with, I'm sure many of you are, is just figuring out how to return to play safely and what that's going to look like. But the fact that we're providing opportunities to play is such a privilege for us. And you just go to places and, we're even working with St. Kitts where they're so supportive, you still see opportunities where you just wish there was more potential and there was more accessibility to play. And you can't walk away from that without having that changes the way you look at the game where you live.
I'm sure. Yeah. And what a great response. And just to finish us up here, Jene, is what do you want to say to aspiring female players and coaches in the girls' game who are empowering them and advocating their soccer journey?
Oh, I mean, isn't this a really great moment for the women's game? I see this place where the narrative is just shifted completely, and we're seeing young women with ideas feeling empowered to speak and do the things that they believe in and not get muted by maybe what would have been a traditional way of thinking and doing. I mean, I find it so exciting that some of the things that pique my interest the most are from people who are just starting their coaching journey. And I think we've had this tendency in the past to go, well, listen, you got to have the experience before we're going to listen to your ideas. Not anymore. You can look at the things that, I'm big friends with Tiffany and Aid, who do the Duke Dig notebooks. What a great way to flip the model of how to empower women in the game. Yeah. And there are so many people out there doing that. I just honestly try to keep up and find ways that I can not ruin their momentum and be supportive of it. And I know WAGS in particular has had this rich tradition of doing that and being innovative. And it's almost like now they're the torchbearers for how it can be done. And so I'm so grateful, just even as a kid, I went to WAGS as a player, and to see what WAGS has changed to and become as they've grown and adapted to this new model. And now it's shifted to giving back to growing the women's game even more in different ways than they have when I was a player is just phenomenal. And you just want to see that replicated everywhere. So
and I think the exciting thing for Sky and myself is we've asked that similar question to, women from Scotland, from Antigua, from Germany, from Spain, from yourself. And we get the same excitement and passion and response, cool. the word empowerment and the opportunity. And it's awesome to hear that firsthand from both Sky and myself to kind of wrap up the conversations. Is everybody sees it as such an empowering and an opportunistic experience that, this is just getting moving. So your response is just
That's
fantastic.
Great.
Yeah,
that's great.
It is. It's great to catch up with you and to have this conversation. I love just that you were able to speak about the work you're doing and the exciting growth of the game. It means so much to us. So, hey, where can people catch up with you? Social channels? Can they follow?
Yeah, definitely.
The Sugar Girls, I hear they're called.
Sugar Girls, that's right. Yeah, so St. Kitts is a really good social media, especially on Instagram. It's very popular. For me personally, I'm a very pro inactive regular tweeter, but I do, so Twitter, my handle is Jené Baclawski. LinkedIn, same thing. Absolutely. I would love to connect with anybody who has ideas and wants to collaborate for growing the game. So please do pass that along for sure.
Well, this is great, Jene. And just thanks so much, Jene. And special thanks to WAGS also for sponsoring this series and its continued support of women and girls soccer. This has been an absolute pleasure, and thank you for being with us.
Thank you, guys. Thank you so much, Sky. Thank you, Eric, for thinking of me. I really appreciate it.
It's a pleasure.
Yeah.
Thank you, Jene. Take care.